One of the best and the easiest things you can do for yourself as a designer is to draft your patterns first on paper, because I personally made a few mistakes that were avoided because I drafted on paper. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Mercy Adebayo, Carries and Kings by Mercy Adebayo, and the first thing I did here was that I drafted my basic bodice pattern and I went ahead to label everything. I marked 4.5 from the center of the pattern and created my dart on my bust line, under bust, hip line and half length, and then marked my regular dart. I want to create where my Victorian corset is going to start from, and I don't want anything that is going to reveal the bust, so I decided to just create 5 and 6 so it will give a sweetheart neck. Next, I'm going to take 4.5 inch from the center and then mark 1 inch on both sides to create my dart that's going to hold the bust. Okay, so just watch what I'm doing carefully here. I don't know why my voice does not have energy today. Normally I'm always jumpy and bubbly. I don't even understand at all. So you see that I marked 4.5 from the center, right, horizontally, and I joined that line to the one already existing, right? I want you to remember 2 things. Number 1, it's going to be a curved line that you're rolling. It's not going to be a straight line. And number 2, you're going to be connecting it to the bust line. You see that these darts that we created here, we made it 1 inch below the bust line, right? So but this one now, it will be on that bust line that we're going to connect it to. Understood? So if you don't understand what I'm saying, right, just go back to 1 minute and 34 seconds. That is exactly why I started this thing. What I'm just doing right now is that this green line that I created newly, I marked 2 inches horizontally on the underbust, that's UB, HL and hip, right? Mark 2 inches from that first green line that I created, and then I curved it from the point of this black marker. So I created a curve. So at this point it's supposed to be looking like a bust. Next, I'm going to go ahead and mark, because I want my Victorian corset to look very Victorian-y, if that's a word. I'm going to create a new half length. I'm going to create a new half length, and it's going to be 1.5 inches below my real half length. So it's going to give me a slimmer waist look and a more defined waist look. So if, for example, if your half length is originally 16 inches, it's going to come down by 1.5, which makes it what? 17.5 inches. So that's what I did here. And from the 2 inches that I marked before, right, that's the darts that I took out, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches. So I marked 2.5 inches on the half length, 2.5 inches on the new half length, and 2.5 inches on the under bust length. I'm going to draw a straight line to create a new dart there. So you should take note that this basic bodice pattern was created with 2 inches allowance. So we are not going to be working with that because of all the darts that we are going to be creating. So I'm going to mark those lines that I've created and those points that I've created and draw a straight line from there. Just in case some of you are still wondering what I did to get the measurement at the bust line, what I did was that, if you understand very well, at this 2.5 inch dart that I took out, remember that I already took out 2 inches from the original dart, so that makes it 4.5 inches. For you to understand again, I took out 2 inches, right, from this dart, and it created a bigger dart, right? Now from that dart I marked 2.5 inches, and that is creating another green line that I marked here. So 2 plus 2.5 equals to what? So what I'm going to do now is that at the new half length, I'm going to create another dart there. So that's exactly what makes our Victorian corset, right? The number of darts that can make it snatched enough. So it's going to be half inch on both sides. That means we're taking out 1 inch, right? So half inch on both sides, and we're going to just connect it from the chest line down to the hip line. So at the center of the cloth, we are going to take out just half inch on the new half length, right? We're going to take out just half inch on the new half length. That means that we have 3 darts now at the front pattern of this cloth. Half inch at the center of the pattern, 2 inches at the bust line of the pattern, and then 1 inch at the side of the pattern. So we're going to be creating our new allowance for the clothes. Usually many people say do not add allowance at all, and I agree with them 100%. Do not add allowance, because that was another mistake that I saw that I made that was easily corrected because it was a pattern paper. So what I did was that I added allowance, right, which I was not supposed to. So just watch what I'm doing. What I did earlier was that I curved my armhole instead of making the armhole straight, and so that it will not be choking is the word, right? So it will not be choking my client, which is my sister. So the mistake I was telling you about was I added the allowance, which I was not supposed to, except this 2 inches at the top of my fabric, right, which I'm supposed to add back. So I'll just directly create back my horizontal patterns, right, adding those darts that I removed. So for instance, now my bust is 36 inches divided by 4, right? 36 inches is 9, right? Divided by 4, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding back that 2 inches. That is only the thing I'm going to do. The 2 inches darts that I removed, that's only the thing I'm going to do. And to be same thing for the waist. So for the waist, right, it's going to be a little bit different because we removed half inch at the center point and we removed 2 inch at the bust point. We removed 1 inch at the side of the cloth. You understand, right? So that's going to be half plus 2 plus 1. Half plus 2, 2.5 plus 1, 3.5. So we're just going to be taking the normal waist length, right? And if you want to snatch your waist, it's fine. You can take out as much as 3 inches from your waist. So now the second issue that I avoided quite easily because I patterned on paper is what you're going to see right here now. I'm meant to shorten my pattern on the side by 1 inch, right? I'm going to add a side bust dart. So it was when I was cutting that I remembered, I'm supposed to add a side bust dart. And what I did was that I measured the full length of the side, right, of the side pattern, which is 14.5 inches. That's the side length of the cloth, right? The length of the side was 14.5 inches, and then I removed 1 inch. I came up by 1 inch on the bust line. That's exactly what I did. I came up by 1 inch on the bust line, and then I connected it to my bust point. I hope we know what bust point is. That's that 4.5 inch. So I'm going to be taking out this dart totally because it's not supposed to feature. We're not going to notch anything or dart anything again. So it's supposed to come out totally. And if you are going to be drafting this thing directly on your fabric, you cannot cut this out. So we always advise, use your pattern paper and do everything that you need to do on your pattern paper, right? Make all the mistakes you need to make, draft all that you need to draft, cut all that you need to cut on your pattern paper, and make sure that everything turns out well. So I'll just use sellotape, and I'm just going to be using my sellotape to tape everything up here that I've created. Do you see what I'm doing? Remember that if you want to snatch your client properly, if you want to snatch yourself properly, you can take out as much as 3 inches. So that means that, right, you are not going to be adding any allowance, and you're not going to be using all these static measurements. Static measurements that I mean here is that it's not going to be now by force that from the bust point. The bust point is 4.5 inches from the center, right? It's not going to now be that by force by fire from the bust point. You are going to measure 4.5 inches. That's going to depend on the waist, right, of your, it's going to depend on the waist of the person that you are drafting this pattern for. If the person is very slim and has a very slim waist, your pattern cannot be this wide. So you're going to just make sure that you have 3 darts, 3 patterns or more or less. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is that I'm now going to curve my hip. So because we want to make our Victorian corset curved a little at the sides, usually it comes up, and that gives the beautiful effect, except we're doing an asymmetric style, right? We don't want to make it boring, so it's just going to measure 1 inch up. So do you know that we have taken out 2 inches now from this thing, right? We're going to measure 1 inch at the bust line, and we're going to measure 1 inch up from the, bust line and 1 inch up from the hip. So the reason I now fast forward this a little too much is because I wanted you people to see everything that I cut out, and just be very careful about what you are going to be cutting out. Now label all this, especially if you're a beginner. Make sure that you label what needs to be labeled. If possible, use an arrow. Okay, know that this one will face the center, this one will face the center front. What I have here is center front, side front 1 and side front 2. Everything is going to be two pieces. Just so you guys know, I would love to recreate this pattern all over again with more precision, right, and more explanation. So if you want me to recreate this pattern, just let me know. Next, onto the back, just see what I did here to make everything easy for myself. That is the yoke, we call it, right? That yoke that was at yoke is the top part of the cloth. That's the part where the shoulder and the neckline is, that we did not use in coat. We are going to be using it for the back. So it does not mean that we don't have to start creating something from scratch again. We just place it on the pattern that we have here, right? We just place it easily, place it well, correctly. Make sure that your shoulder slope is proper. Make sure that the center of the line is proper, and then you are going to now extend all the lines that you have from the front, all the chest line, the bust line, right, the under bust, the new waist, new half length, right, that we called it the first half length, and then the hip line. Yes. So you go and create a simple dart like we did at the front. The simple dart comprises of what? 4.5 inches from the center, right? 4.5 inches from the center, and you just mark the 4.5 inches on the chest line, bust line, like that, downwards, and create a straight line. That's going to be the line for our dart. This is going to be a rope corset. It's not going to be zip. So I'm going to be coming in by, you see, another mistake I made here, just want to point it out for you people, was that I was supposed to come in at the top, right, at the top of the pattern by 2 inches. Then at the center of the pattern, that's at the waist length, it's going to be 1.5 inches, and then at the hip is going to be 2 inches again. So it was supposed to be wide, slim, wide, but now I made it slim, wide, slim. Do you understand? So another thing that I'm going to point out, right, is that if you're doing for a slim person, do not use 4.5. What I used here is 4.5 from the bust point. Don't use 4.5. If that person is too slim for 4.5, what you want to do, right, is that you want to create a dart at the normal dart point, which is our bust point, right, and you want to create another dart there. So using 4.5 makes it too wide already. So you can use 3, you can use 2.5, right? Although everything will come out chicken, but it's better than it being too wide. So what I had to do here was that I had to remove 1 inch from all of these things. So I'm saving you. Don't use what? 4.5. Don't do what? Don't add extra allowance to this. As I said earlier, don't do what? Don't use 4.5, use 3.5. 4.5 I'm talking about here is from your bust point, right? Don't use 4.5, use 3.5 or 2.5. So the bust was 34, right, and I went to go and still add extra allowance. Don't do that. Do your 34. If your bust is 34, right, do 34 on the dot, because the person is going to be snatched eventually. Okay, so those were one of the issues that I had. You are going to create that 1 inch that we took out from the hip line. That 1 inch that we came up by, you are just going to come up by that 1 inch, right? Come up by 1 inch, and then come up by another 1 inch, because our back is not meant to be longer or shorter. It's meant to be equal. Follow me. We've taken out 2 inches from the front, so you're going to be coming up by 2 inches at the side of the back. It's going to be curving. Just watch what I do. So what you see me doing here now is at the bust line, right? That one we call him bust line, bust point, bust line, anyone. We are going to be marking our darts that we've created, 1/2 inch on both sides, right? 1/2 inch on both sides of the bust point, and the second dart that we created towards the sides, the back sides, is going to be 1/2 inch. So that means we're going to be coming out with 3 sides on the back too. And that's just about it. We're going to be cutting out this pattern. I'm not going to fast forward it so that you can see how I'm cutting this carefully. Remember that we have normal back, right? And then we removed 1.5 inch, right? We removed 1.5 inch. So we're not going to cut out the normal back. We're going to be cutting out our 1.5 inch. Just look at me carefully. Let me mute myself so you see what I'm doing. I didn't want to talk, but let me just talk so you guys see what it is, right? You see the first straight line that we created? No, we are not cutting that one. We are cutting this curved one that we created. And remember that it's supposed to be what? Wide, slim, wide, instead of slim, wide, slim. So your top is going to be 2 inches. New waistline is, or half length, is going to be 1.5 inches. Then the under part is going to be 2 inches back. Do you understand? If you don't understand, I'm going to happily create another one, but I don't want to waste this my video. It takes time and strength and energy, and I'm also working as a virtual assistant. I don't actively sew for people, but I love creating tutorials. So this is a passion that I'm working as, right? I'm a video editor. You can see it obviously in my video, right? You can see with the jobs and the cuts, but I'm just making this a very simple video. So I'm going to happily create another one actually. This is just it. You see how I carefully cut out everything. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to name my patterns. First one, especially for this back, if you don't name your front, it's even fine, because you know that one side looks like bust, one side looks like the curve of breast and all of that, but this back, everything is straight. So make sure you name your back. Make sure you put it together like this, right? And name your back. Center back, CB. Side back, SB. Side back 2, SB2, right? So you see what I was trying to say here is that instead of me to have done that 4.5, I should have done 2.5, and my pattern will not be this large. So just name your back 2 pieces. Everything is 2 pieces. I use this to test run and create a very beautiful piece for my sister. I'll put a video on the screen for you guys to see, but I'm going to use it to create another cloth entirely for myself, so you guys can see what it looks like. It's just a very beautiful piece. Bye.